Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Wednesday afternoon. Another beautiful day in the Palmetto State. Good to have you with us wherever you are dialed in tonight, listening to Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary back with us, and the Professor Tom Hayes down the way, and the State Man Graham Pope, once again behind the bulletproof glass. Phone number 800-956-7266. You can also reach us via email. And our email address, talkback@sportstalksc.com, talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter address is @sportstalksc. Well, we roll on through these hot summer days, counting down towards football. We've got some soccer to keep our interest up a little bit. We've got the College World Series. You know, the thing about the College World Series, I don't understand. I know why it's done. It's done, again, for ESPN because it gives them more than 2 weeks of decent programming to fill the month of June. But think about this. Virginia won last night, so they're 2-0. And now they get 3 days off. And is that a real fair test of the depth of a baseball team's pitching staff? They're going to be fully rested, unlike the conference tournaments that make you play day after day after day. My point is, if it weren't for television pushing this thing to spread it out over 12, 13 days, they could play the College World Series in 4 or 5 days and crown a champion. Yet, because of the whim of ESPN and what they want, the NCAA allows them to stretch this thing out over several days or over a couple of weeks. And does it show the true quality of a team? Because you don't have to go that deep into your pitching staff. Say you're Virginia, you win those first 2 games, you've got a well-rested pitching staff by the time you come back in 3 days.
Don't you want the best team to win, not the one with the deepest pitching staff?
Well, that's part of being the best team.
In baseball, normally, when you're determining a champion, you do have a little rest built in there. And
World Series gives you 1 day off.
Do you just have a list of things? Do you go home at night and just write down things that you want to complain about that actually have nothing negative?
Wait till you hear the one I've got after the break.
Phil life any worse.
Oh yeah, I've got a great.
As you get older, you're turning into that. Like, do you scream at kids to slow down when they're going by the neighborhood?
As a matter of fact,
pull their pants up.
Last night in the news, maybe you saw this in the news. There was a full-speed car chase in downtown Columbia last night. Did you know that?
I thought that was just a replay of the O.J. Simpson 20 years later.
It was a perfect way to remember the anniversary, but I saw it. I'm on Bull Street last night, and here comes this truck blowing through all the intersections. I mean, I was hoping and praying nobody would cross. This truck was doing 100 miles an hour down Bull Street, and there were about 15 cop cars chasing him. He finally crashed over here in downtown Columbia and took off on foot, and they caught him. I'm sorry I missed all that. But I actually saw a real-life police car chase.
Okay. It wasn't a movie being shot.
I got out of the way. That's what I did.
You didn't chase him down. I thought you were going to say you got out of the car and tracked him down.
I've got the ultimate complaint coming up after the break.
Great.
Okay, here's my big complaint of the night since you asked, K-Mac. Then we'll get down to serious stuff. 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And we're checking Twitter as well. Check out your Twitter comments at SportsTalkSC. So, I did ESPN a favor last night. I stayed up, and I watched the Virginia baseball game, 15 innings into the wee hours of the morning. But I watched
the longest game in College World Series history.
Yeah, I was a good viewer, and I watched it. And so it ends, and I say, okay, I'm going to watch a little Sports Center here, catch up on baseball and everything else, And what is their lead story on ESPN's main Sports Center after the baseball game? Their lead story is, of course, Mexico and Brazil. Now, okay, first of all, it was a game match that was played hours before it. It had been settled before we went on the air. That game was at least 8 hours old by 1 o'clock in the morning. That's their lead story. But on top of that, okay, now I'm a good red-blooded American, and I got no problem following international stories. But they have an interview with the Mexican goalkeeper. But it's in Spanish, and they have subtitles. Now, my television is a good 15 feet away from me, so I'm forced to watch. Not forced to watch. I could have changed channels, which I did.
Exactly.
But I didn't want to change channels because I was comfortable. So I'm watching ESPN. Number one, they're leading with soccer, which I don't care about.
Okay.
And number two, it was a soccer game that was over 8 hours old, which is stupid to lead with. Number three, the lead interview in the story is with a gentleman speaking Spanish, no English. I can't understand him, and I can't read the subtitles. So thank goodness I turned to Fox Sports 1 and doing baseball, and they're showing Yankee highlights.
So you found what you wanted.
So my recommendation to people is if you want to watch highlights of American sports, go to Fox Sports 1.
Well, the World Cup recommendation. America. And you've been knocking the World Cup.
I
will tell you this, New York City, they had a higher television viewership for the United States World Cup match against Ghana than they did the Rangers in the Stanley Cup.
I do not believe that.
You will believe it.
I believe
it.
I mean, giving up the ghost.
You're one of those guys that thinks, well, I don't like soccer. Nobody likes soccer.
Yeah, I tend to believe that.
You're wrong, though. No. You're wrong.
Well, I will say this.
I want to hear from I want callers tonight, and we'll mix them in with everything else we're going to talk about. I want callers tonight who are watching the World Cup. I want to hear from people who are actually sitting down, and I'm not talking about just a cursory glance at the screen. I'll do that. I was watching it today during lunch. I saw Netherlands score a goal.
See, they got you hooked. They're getting you hooked.
No, I'm not hooked, but I want to hear from some people who are actually sitting down.
I think there were 5 goals in that.
You already got body slammed by a guy from over at the track who said he was excited about it.
Yeah, he was.
A lot of people are. The bars around the state of South Carolina are packed full of people watching it.
That's just another reason to drink.
Well, Corn, let me tell you, one of the interesting things about ESPN is no longer an American network anyway. It's an international.
No. They have ESPN Deportes. They could have put that on ESPN.
But I'm saying ESPN.
I want ESPN English.
It was a great story.
8 hours. Yes. It was 8 hours old, K-Mac.
If the NBA Finals is 8 hours old, should you not talk about it anymore?
Right.
I would think that
if the Super Bowl is 8 hours old, they forget about it.
If it was the Celtics, if it was 18 years old, he'd be talking about it.
He'll watch Larry Bird on Classic Sports till the sun.
Well, that's true. But if they had played that thing in the evening, I could understand it. But
they did play it in the evening. It just had to be in another hemisphere.
It was over by the time we went on the air last night. That's how old that thing was. The Braves, can't wait to talk to Mike tonight. Philadelphia beat the Braves today 10-5, completing a 3-game sweep. The Phillies came into the series in last place in the East. They have moved out of last place. They had 18 hits today against Braves pitching. Ryan Howard continues to eat up Braves pitching. He had 3 more hits today against the Braves. So very ugly series for Atlanta. We'll get more on today's game and that series from Mike Morgan in our Braves report coming up. Other baseball this afternoon, a bunch of games. The Cubs beat Miami 6-1. Kansas City beat Detroit again 2-1. Baltimore shuts out Tampa Bay 2-0. It's Boston beating Minnesota in 10 2-1. Mets over the Cardinals 3-2, and the White Sox beat San Francisco today 7-6. Let's see, there's one game in the World Series tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah, UC Irvine in Texas.
This is an elimination game.
Elimination. The winner will have to beat Vandy twice. And Ole Miss, of course, all the local teams for us, local being ACC and SEC teams, are still alive. And Vandy and Virginia both in the catbird seat, so we could have a little
how about that
SEC ACC matchup if the bracket holds.
Who would you take 2 out of 3? Because that's what it will be. Who would you take 2 out of 3?
I think the most consistent team all year long has been Virginia. There's no doubt about it. But I'll tell you what,
Vandy is playing really well right now, and they have so many great arms. I mean, it's like everybody on their team can throw 95, and Corbett, he's just done a heck of a job, and they have just enough offense, and it's coming together. It'd be a heck of a series. I'd like to see that one 2 out of 3. We'll see how it plays out, though. Crazy things can happen here, and Ole Miss is trying to get a little momentum going. That was a nice win for them, and you never know what's going to happen with Texas and UC Irvine. Not a lot of offense, so I will say this: if you want to complain about something, it's just and I like college baseball. And I don't mind the college baseball game. It doesn't really bother me until Omaha in that huge park, same dimensions as Rosenblatt, but the problem is it's facing the opposite direction, whereas the wind always blew out at Rosenblatt. It's always blowing in here. That combined with the new bats and the new balls, it's just it's a singles game. It's hard to score. You have to essentially get 4 straight hits, or a team has to boot the ball around a little bit. For you to score any runs. You have the number 3, 4 hitters bunting now. That's not.
Kyle Peterson said flat out last night that they need to move the fences in 15 feet to make that. He said they shouldn't be playing in a park and in conditions that are so different than what they play in the regular season. And he said they need to move the fences in 15 feet, which would mean, how would they do that? Because they'd have, part of the beauty of the park is the stands. They are right out there on the fence. You're going to move the stands in as well?
I think probably if you're going to make a move like that, Corn, I think you have to wait till next year when the flat seam ball and see what that does. If that doesn't work, then you move the fences in. This year, as far as the schedule is concerned, I think the College World Series schedule is scheduled for television, but I think they've scheduled it this year working around the World Cup. I think next year you have a more compact schedule, but
No, they do it like this every year.
I will say this about the College World Series. You complain about ESPN, but part of the reason the College World Series and college baseball is where it is now is because of ESPN.
Well, they better get some. I don't mind a good pitcher's duel, but it's a little ridiculous now, and I don't know why it's taken this long to get the balls back. They announced 2 years ago that they were coming back. I guess they have to stitch them all by hand, and they didn't have enough. And I didn't like the Gorilla Ball 21-14 either.
Correct.
Now I would prefer this to the Gorilla Ball. I'll say that when it's just whatever team has the last at bat, they're going to win.
And you don't want 4. Well, of course, you had a 5-hour game yesterday, but that was because of great pitching and very little hitting. But you don't want 21-15 games that take 4 hours to play either, and you'll wear out your entire.
The only thing I would say now, if you're going to bring in the flat seam, juice it also. Might as well juice it while you're changing it. so that may help as well.
All right. Recruiting note regarding South Carolina and the incoming class. One good piece of news and one bad piece of news. We'll give you the good news first. Jackie Hayes, coach at Dillon High School, tells us that his linebacker, fullback standout, Joe Blue, has qualified. Got the news recently that he is fully qualified. The news came too late for him to enroll in the first session of summer school, so he'll be enrolling on July 2nd. However, Tony Morrell of the Big Spur reporting that defensive end Jostin Thomas, who's at Trinity Valley Junior College and a native of Atlanta, will not have the grades to be able to enroll this fall at USC. We spoke with his high school coach this afternoon, and he planned to talk with Thomas tonight to get more details about that situation. So one in and one out for the Gamecocks. And, of course, they continue to wait on defensive lineman Dexter Weidman of Saluda. And his coach told us earlier this week they're still waiting on a final test score to come back. Should be about 3 weeks or so before they know the result on that. 800-956-7266. Lines are open. Jump on board. We'll be right back.
I stand by.
All right, we're back on Sports Talk 800-956-7266. If you'd like to join us on the program, email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @sportstalksc. Anything hot on our Twitter feed this afternoon, K-Mac?
Hot on the Twitter feed? No, I have put out on Twitter for people to let us know if they're actually watching the World Cup, because you say you're not.
Did you hashtag it anything?
I didn't hashtag it. Maybe I should have. A lot of people are chiming in saying they're watching it. SC TV Man says on Monday on James Island there were so many people watching at one bar that 30 to 40 overflowed in a restaurant next door.
Well, I've seen the clips from various bars around the country and people gathering outside, jumping up and down, going crazy. I get that. I get there's a segment of society that's greatly entertained and excited about this. And I'm rooting for the Americans.
No, you didn't sound like it on Monday. You had a very Ghana feel to you.
Well,
you were cheering when Clint Dempsey, a guy that went to school in South Carolina, he had his nose busted, and you were saying good. And when Josie went down with the hamstring, you're, oh, yay. Kip Bachnight tweets us, former Gamecock Golden Spikes winner. He says, I'm watching it. With all due respect, Corn is wrong on that one. Here's somebody that agrees with you.
He's taking one too many fastballs off the noggin.
Says zero cares.
Who's this? That's my man. Who said that?
TSC.
That's my man right there.
1969. Few people that disagree. A lot of people earlier, and we'll get into this later, with the Athlon Sports Report ranking the stadiums. Clemson #1 in the ACC.
Yeah, I was going to get into that. Clemson's been ranked #1 in the ACC by Athlon. We're talking about Death Valley. They solicited a ranking from 12 beat media members from ACC schools. Clemson got 9 of 12. Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. You go around to the different venues around the ACC, and, I mean, come on. You're going to go to Wallace Wade Stadium. You're going to go to Byrd Stadium. You're going to go to the
Byrd Stadium's not in the ACC.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well, in the past, historically speaking, my bad. Historically, I got to get used to that. You go to Charlottesville. I mean, the only place – there's no other place that rivals the atmosphere except for Doak Campbell Stadium. And, I mean, they've done a nice job rebuilding that facility.
Lane Stadium's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's just not as big.
No, it's not as big, but I mean,
let's face it, the hill at Clemson, the beauty of the campus, of the surroundings, it's awesome.
I think it's top 5 in the country.
Well, they ranked it 7th in the country. Williams-Brice was 23rd in the country.
Yeah, that's going to probably improve when they do that work around the plaza, when they erect the George Rogers statue.
I'm convinced that the college stadiums that are off on their own, like Clemson, and not in a metropolitan area, automatically has a different atmosphere.
Yeah, the setting at Death Valley, Athens, those campuses that are right in the heart, or the stadiums that are right in the heart of campus, do have an advantage.
Jordan Hare Stadium.
Jordan Hare wasn't as high as Bryant-Denny, which was 9th on the list.
How about Tiger Stadium at LSU?
#1.
Oh, that was #1. Yeah. All right, your thoughts on that as well. Where do South Carolina and Clemson, in your mind, fall respectively when it comes to the best venues in college football? We'll be right back.
Great point. I don't really. I know a little bit.
And we're back, Sports Talk, Wednesday night from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, who still doesn't realize it's 98 degrees in downtown Columbia. And
it's cold inside.
The estate man, Graham Pope. But this should be refreshing for you. You come in from the
it's cold.
hot outside. You come into this cool environment. Take your jacket off and relax and act like you're going to stay
cold.
a while.
Many people are really scared to death because I can sit in the crowd like I was at a friend's son's, what was it? I guess they have middle school graduation now.
Mm-hmm.
He said, man, you're sitting there with a coat and tie on, and you're not even perspiring. What's the deal? Mm-hmm. I said, I'm a cool customer.
Mm-hmm. You control your nerves. You control you should do an antiperspirant commercial. You can control your bodily functions extremely well from that standpoint.
No, it's called water.
The phone number, 800-956-7266. Getting a lot of Twitter response, but I'm waiting for some folks to join us on the lines to talk about how much they're watching or not watching the World Cup. Also, going back to the story, Athlon's ranking of the top venues in football in the ACC, of course, Clemson getting the nod there. K-Mac brought up the national ranking. Clemson was number what?
7.
And USC was number
23.
Is there that, from a national perception, is there that big of a margin? Who did the voting in the national poll?
I'm not sure if it was the same way as the conference one where they had beat writers. That would be a little, I don't know how they would do that, or if the editors of the magazine did it and what the requirements were. There were some on there that surprised me. Arkansas's Reynolds Stadium was a lot higher than I expected.
On
I think
campus, another on-campus
It is
facility.
on campus. It's a nice facility.
Where was Florida State's nationally?
I'll have to pull it up. I don't remember.
Because that's an off-campus facility.
Doak Campbell was 25th.
All right,
I'm
there
looking
you go.
at it right now.
So, there's a strong lean, I would imagine. There's a strong lean towards on-campus facilities.
Vaughn Hemingway, which is on campus.
And where was Penn State? Where was Beaver Stadium?
It was top 10, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, let me pose the question this way.
Coliseum was 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Let me pose this question this way. Inside the venue, forget all the outside stuff, because you walk to Clemson's Death Valley, you're walking through the campus and all that kind of stuff. It's pastoral, it's calm. Williams-Brice is set in an industrial area for the most part. Now, I imagine in the next several decades, you're going to see more and more condominium and apartment complexes grow up around there and change that entire look of the Bluff Road area.
It's already changed as far as with that farmers market.
Exactly. So you're going to see more residential type setting around there, and you're going to see the university grow out that way. What they need to do is get rid of that railroad track if they could, and grow the campus out that way and surround the stadium. But anyway, once you get inside the stadium, what's the best environment? Is that what they're voting on as well, or are these people caught up by what they see as they walk into the stadium?
And I think also which stadium are other fans and teams intimidated about playing in? When you go to Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge and you play a night game there, you know that there's about a 75% chance that you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's based on historical data. Death Valley, the other Death Valley, which is supposed to be Death Valley, it's a tough place to win at night. That's a huge home field advantage. Now, South Carolina has the longest home win streak in the country right now, and I think they really have developed a distinct home field advantage, and they've kind of found their niche a little bit at Williams-Brice Stadium. They've really improved their game presentation. So, maybe it's a more intimidating place right now than Death Valley, Clemson's Death Valley.
Yeah.
Clemson
What's intimidating is having number 7 across the line of scrimmage from you, making tackles and wreaking havoc on the field.
Yeah, well, and 80,000 screaming fans. And, and we were talking about this in show prep. Sandstorm has kind of replaced 2001 as South Carolina's signature song. When you hear Sandstorm,
you think Sandstorm's
people
now number
affiliate
1?
that with South Carolina now. They do. They played it at the ACC tournament. We joked about this in Greensboro, and they were doing the starting lineups, and they were doing Clemson's lineup, and they started playing Sandstorm, and all the people were like, how are they doing this to Clemson? That's South Carolina's song.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not a song that South Carolina came up with. They didn't come up with 2001 either, but that's the song that fires people up. That's the song that they play, not when they enter the stadium, but before the kickoff, that everybody really gets fired up about. And, when Marcus Lattimore committed, what did he say? He said, I can't wait to be in that stadium when they're playing Sandstorm.
Yeah, especially when they play Sandstorm in his church. But the uniqueness of stadiums is what I think draw people to Corn. The running down the hill is very unique for Clemson. Now, unique to the structure of LSU Stadium is the fact that if you're a devotee of Southern politics, you understand a lot of things going on. I remember reading the story of Huey Long. They said we don't need to enlarge the stadium at LSU. What we need is some dormitory space for the men. So he went and expanded the side of the stadium and built the dormitory rooms in the side of the stadium. Now, I understand it's been something like 25 years since those rooms have been used, but there's a dorm, a dorm area in that stadium there at LSU. So, little unique things and stories that accompany old edifices, I think that, or rituals like running down the hill, I think really spice people's interest in college football.
All right, to the phones we go, 800-956-7266. Ronnie in North Augusta. How are you, sir? Welcome to Sports Talk.
Good, Phil. How y'all doing tonight?
Man, we're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think maybe Spurrier is giving Clemson the edge on this. When he first got there, he didn't like the stuff with the coming out with the 2001 and the team getting all hyped up. But I tell you, boy, you go up there to Clemson, and if they showed it all, they would be number 1. I mean, they don't even show them when they drop that all-in coin and that all-in bucket. And then when they put Dabo up there on that front seat of that bus and them cameras follow him coming around, Dabo kisses the rock, then they run down the hill, then they lock arms and walk 100 yards. I'm telling you, by the time they do all that, I'm so excited I can't even hardly watch the football game.
They do have a lot of stuff leading up to their kickoffs there, but it works for them. It works for Clemson.
It works for them until the kickoff.
Well, I mean, he's got what's his record at home the last 3 years? 19-2?
19-2 the last 3 years at Death Valley.
Losses
since he took
South
over,
Carolina and to Florida State.
Sweeney's 36-6 at Death Valley since he took over in 2008. 2 of those losses to South Carolina, 1 to Florida State, Miami, Georgia Tech in his very first game as interim coach. So he's had they win a lot more than they lose at Death Valley. 276, 101, and 7 all time in 72 years in that stadium. That's strong.
Oh, I just like to have a good time and pick it. Clemson, but all of that stuff I could care less about. I'd go for the football game. But, I mean, I will have to say, but, that's a pretty school up there, and it's beautiful being the stadium right. And I do think the stadium being on the campus anywhere makes a big difference. Georgia, it's the same way with the stadium being right there. And, I mean, Carolina's doing some things now to change that. And if that's what you're into is all the pregame atmosphere, Clemson would be the place to go, I guess, for you. But if you want to watch somebody kick Clemson's butt, last 5 years and going to do it again this year, you need to come on over to Williams-Brice. Y'all have a good night, Bill.
All right. Thank you very much. Is that going to continue to be 6 in a row this year as we look ahead to the upcoming season? I think Ronnie's pretty confident. The Gamecock fans I hear from when I speak around the state or here on the show, their confidence level now with that series, all-time high. They don't even worry about it anymore. They think it's a given that they're going to beat Clemson. This is totally new from, say, 10 years ago.
When you stop worrying, that's when you get your butt kicked.
But
you always
Clemson,
have to worry every game.
What about Clemson's new focus on this rivalry now?
That's right. They had that clock. The countdown clock could turn everything.
The focus and apparently and I wonder if their new president, who's very sports friendly, very active, he's active in recruiting. I wonder if
Radakovich, maybe he demanded the clock happen as part of the post-season interview process. I think the clock is hokey. I think that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. You don't put too much focus on that one game.
They got to beat South Carolina.
But, Auburn had to beat Alabama up and work for them.
They got to beat them. They can't go 6 in a row. We'll be back.
Steve A.
The 2014 FIFA World Cup is brought to you by Adidas. All in or nothing.
All right, time for the Braves Report starring Mike Morgan. And Ryan Howard would like to see you in the visitors' tunnel outside of the locker room. He heard what you said about the Phillies when this series began, and he has some points he wants to make with you.
Well, I think Ryan was clearly aware of my fantasy team and therefore had to put up some impressive numbers this weekend. And I appreciate him doing that. But, yeah, it's kind of amazing how a last-place team looked like a first-place team this weekend at Turner Field. Really, I would say that this series probably the most disappointing of the year, not just the losses, but the way you lose. Philadelphia is a team that is just ready to be dismantled, a team that doesn't expect to compete. And it's not as if you saw, other than Cole Hamels, outstanding pitching in this series. The Braves did. I like the lineup that Freddie put out there. You know, I've been begging for Hayward to be put in the 5-hole. That's where he was. I've been hoping that Tommy Lostello would get a crack at the leadoff spot. 0 for 4 today. I don't care. I would do it again. I still think long term that's a better formula, either he or Andrelton Simmons. But the Braves just bad altogether. Defense was shoddy. Pitching was not good. Aaron Harang was just awful today, and that certainly was the biggest factor in this game. And give Philadelphia credit. I mean, their veterans came through. You mentioned Ryan Howard. He had a monster series. Chase Utley was good, and virtually everybody in their lineup contributed. So time for the Braves to kind of lick their wounds, get ready for a big series coming up, 4 games against the team that a lot of people think will be the team to beat in this division, the Washington Nationals.
Yeah. You mentioned last night something about Freddie Gonzalez. You mentioned it in passing. I didn't give a chance to follow up with it, but you kind of hinted at some growing unrest around, I guess, Braves Nation, maybe around, I don't know, the organization, about his leadership, his managerial skills, all this and that. Is there some heat starting to grow under his seat just a little bit?
Well, there's as you know, whether it's covering a college football coach or a Major League Baseball manager, there's 2 distinctions here. There's one of which where the fan base has become a little bit restless and is continually criticizing, overanalyzing, second-guessing, and perhaps even wishing for a change, versus the organization feeling anywhere close to that. Mm-hmm. The organization doesn't feel anywhere close to that. Freddie Gonzalez is not managing for his job this year, so let's take that off the table. However, there still is a very fan base that has to at least be considered here, that many of which have been overly critical of Freddie Gonzalez on a number of different fronts. I think a lot of it, quite frankly, has been unfair, but some of it is legitimate. You know, I mean, the fact of the matter is that when you look at some of the things that this team does not do well, it just seems to repeat itself over and over and over. Now, look, for those people that think Bobby Cox was the best thing since sliced bread, some of the same people that are ripping Freddie Gonzalez have short memories, because those are some of the same people that would second-guess Bobby Cox year after year, and that was, you know, through the process of 14 divisional titles and several World Series. So it's the nature of the beast. It comes with the business, but the difference is Freddie doesn't have a whole lot of stock, so to speak, banked up, where he's got titles and he's got World Series appearances. So when something goes wrong, people are going to put that on a much sharper magnifying glass for Freddie Gonzalez than they did somebody like Bobby Cox.
And, of course, Bobby early on had Daddy Warbucks sitting in his corner with Ted Turner writing the checks back then. Tell us this, Mike, the recurring habit of the Braves, if this was college football, you would say the Phillies caught the Braves the right time between the Angels and the Nationals, but this team seems to play off their feet against a team that has championship aspirations, and then get a team they should beat, and they look like they play down to the competition. And this seems to be a recurring theme.
No, that's a great point. I think that I've seen it now in person for the last 5 years. It's just amazing how this team plays up to the elite and down to the cellar dwellers, and we see it time and time again. It would not surprise me one bit if Atlanta goes to Washington, a team that everybody is now jumping back on that bandwagon, and they win the series. I mean, it just would not surprise me, because that's what the Braves do, and quite frankly, they have owned the Nationals the last couple of years. So this is one of those series you just have to wipe it out. If you actually had game film and did like they do in football, this is when you take in the trash, find a lighter and some gasoline, and incinerate it. You just need to put it back in your memory, get right back on the road, and get ready for a big series. And I don't use the term big series that often. We're not even at the All-Star break. I do think this is a big series.
All right, Mike, thanks very much, man. We got to hit the break here, and we'll be right back with more Sports Talk.
Xbox One, now starting at $399.
Here's Amaranto. Perea. He shoots. Perea. Here comes Amaranto. Toujours Perea. Et où est la défense des Bleus? Auxiliado, amigo de los Paredes. Oh, y te quieres. Ha salido de acá. Minuto 85. Se saca el jugador. Pega el derechazo.
Here's to the game that makes everything stand still. Coors Light, refresh your world.
Welcome to the new Cricket Wireless. Everyone loves great coverage, especially when it's wireless coverage for over 97% of Americans. Cricket, something to smile about.
All right, stand by.
Thanks to Mike Morgan, our Braves Report, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals, and by Whit Suber of Home Shop Realty, where you pay less for more. Make sure you call 803-518-3888 today and experience the Home Shop difference. Back to your phone calls we go here on Sports Talk. And Billy and Florence, you're up next on the program. Good evening.
Hey, Phil, how you doing today?
We're doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. A little hot. I was actually calling you. I want to correct myself. You were right. I don't know if you remembered yesterday when I was talking about home and home or a kickoff with Ohio State and Clemson in the future.
Yeah.
There was negotiation, but when Notre Dame became a partial member, and Notre Dame, of course, became a full member in all other sports, baseball and basketball, the ones people really care about. And that more or less rejected that, or that shot that deal down. But there was something, but basically I was just letting you know that you were right about that. I do that because I don't want to be one to call and just start blabbering off stuff and, make myself sound good. So, but I'll say this. I was going to respond when you said 6 in a row. What happened again with Clemson and South Carolina, since y'all were talking about the venue.
Yeah.
I absolutely don't think it'll happen at this juncture. I really don't. I could point to 2 reasons quickly if you've got a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I've already stated before, I thought we were more talented last year, and I thought if it weren't for Taj Boyd and Chad Morris, razzle-dazzle stuff and going away from the run, that was 6 turnovers, 7 minutes to go in the game, and it's still tied. And Boyd, he's gone now, so I think, subtraction is addition, if you know what I mean. If he just get it out.
Wow.
Throwing your all-time greatest quarterback under the bus. Addition by subtraction. Wow.
Well, I've met Taj. I like Taj a lot. I mean, as far as some Tiger walks and different things, he's a great guy who works out at the Jets with Rex Ryan. I think it did contribute to his son being a walk-on at Clemson.
Sure.
But that's great. I'm glad to see Taj just get a chance with New York because I really think he can get it because their depth chart with Vic and Geno Smith's not impressive at this
but Billy,
anyway.
Billy, I know that you're looking at things from a very positive standpoint, but you truly do not believe that the offense is going to be as productive in 2014 as it was last year. You're talking 35-plus points a game, 511 yards a game. There's no way this offense can match that.
Sammy Watkins is gone.
Oh, now Sammy's a stud. Absolutely, there's no Sammy right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got to hit a break. Thank you, Billy. Appreciate that. Do you think Clemson's offense can be as productive with the new group taking over? Next hour.
No more Sedan and no more Thierry Henry. Too hot? All right, stand by.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And it's Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Hour number 2 coming your way. Lines open for you, 800-956-7266, the phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, @SportsTalkSC, the website. Always check that out. Always good stuff there, recruiting news and other news notes of interest to you around the state of South Carolina on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Facebook at Sports Talk Radio Network. Couple of other quick notes. USC basketball coach Frank Martin, along with 2 players, Tyrone Johnson and Darius Thornwell, they're going to take part in the 2014 Four Nations Cup in Europe this August. Martin will be a staff member, and Johnson and Thornwell will be on the 10-man roster. They'll go to Europe to compete against foreign national teams consisting of NBA players and EuroLeague All-Stars. So good luck to them. Charleston Southern football coach Jamie Chadwell has announced the addition of former USC and NFL standout Corey Peoples to his staff as cornerbacks coach. Peoples played at USC and graduated in 2005, then spent the 2005-2007 seasons with the Eagles. Last year he was secondary coach at St. Augustine University. He's also coached at Clark Atlanta, Georgia Military, and Keenan High School. So congratulations to him.
Well, you mentioned Frank Martin. I guess that means Ty Johnson's foot is healthy,
Good
ready to
point.
go, and
Mhm.
he wants to get him in shape by playing in Europe so he can for the regular season.
How much will a healthy Ty Johnson all season long, from a wins standpoint, how valuable will he be to this Gamecock basketball team in 14-15?
I think they're going to push for the postseason, a la NIT next year. You could really see it at the end of the year. They were starting to put things together last year. They were playing really good basketball at the end of the season. And when they have that experience coming back, they've been through the battles, some other new pieces coming in. I probably put expectations a little high last year. I thought they were a team that could push for 20 wins last year. And I think some things go differently for them. The injury bug doesn't hit them quite as hard. Maybe they get there, but I think people are going to be happy with what they're seeing from Gamecock basketball.
Well, taking the responsibility of playing a lot of point guard from Sindarius Thornwell, he could blow up this year because he had to take on that responsibility. They looked like they were going to turn the corner there at Texas A&M when Ty Johnson broke that foot, and then when that happened, whoa, they had to change the offense because you had two guys playing point guard that weren't especially adept at doing that. So it'd be interesting to see how they play it this year.
All right. By the way, just reading a little basketball recruiting story here on P.J. Dozier. There's a tournament, I think it's the NBA Top 100 camp going on in Charlottesville, Virginia. Anyway, looks like Kentucky is starting to show. They haven't offered yet, but Kentucky's starting to show some serious interest in P.J. Dozier as USC and Clemson try to fight off the outsiders. All right, we're back. 800-956-7266. I cannot believe. Another thing that bothers me. I cannot believe that there's an 11-year-old girl going to tee it up in the Women's U.S. Open. You mean to tell me that somebody 11 years old is able to go out and go through qualifying? Now, she, I guess, had to go through the local qualifying, the sectional qualifying, the whole deal, and is good enough to do that?
It diminishes. I will say this. It doesn't grind my gears. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But to me, it diminishes your sport when you're saying, yeah, an 11-year-old's good enough to go out there and compete. You would never see that on the men's tour. There would not be an 11-year-old that could go play the tips and compete with the men. And this is what's happened when they did Michelle Wie and they tried to make her into the biggest thing and they tried to put her up against the men, even Annika Sorenstam. No, it's goofy. You're making somebody a sideshow, and that's. But I get heat for this. I say it with Danica Patrick in NASCAR. It's a sideshow.
There's no age. There's no age limit to golf I mean,
no, if you're good enough.
If you're good enough, you go through open qualifying, and if you're good enough, you make the Women's U.S. Open.
I think it's a testament to the lack of talent on the women's tour if an 11-year-old can go out there and qualify for a major championship.
Well, now keep in mind, the tour players, they're making the Open via the various qualifying requirements, winning tournaments, money, ranking, that sort of thing. If she's an outsider who qualified against other outsiders and some touring pros who did have to go through qualifying but made it that way, and she earned, I don't know if they have 156 spots like the men do or not, but that's just mind-boggling that an 11-year-old is capable of playing that kind of golf.
Well, I don't know what's more.
And it's a girl.
Yeah, I don't know.
If it was a boy, I'd say, yeah.
No, I don't know. Girls kind of mature physically faster than boys do. Now, here's the deal, though. The question should be asked, not that an 11-year-old qualified. The question should be asked, who's minding the store? Should she even be there? I mean, I'm almost thinking that people are more injured mentally when they're thrust into positions they have no business in early.
Would you have complained if an 11-year-old Tiger Woods had qualified for the U.S. Open?
Yes, because they need to be children first. Then once they get in their teen years or whatever they want to compete, fine. But you're 11 years old. Let them be children first. The psyche isn't there yet to be dealing.
University of Miami women offered a 9-year-old. Offered a 9-year-old girls basketball player.
Nine?
Yeah. And that's how silly they are.
That's 9.
Well, the men are.
It wasn't ninth grade. It was 9 years old.
Yeah, she's 9 years old. Yeah, they had her on CNN.
That's what I thought.
Today. Yeah, they had her on CNN today. She's a tremendous dribbler, whatever, but she's a child.
A tremendous dribbler.
Yeah, I've got a
2-year-old
that I guess is 6 years away from an offer.
But here's the problem. I think she plays, if I'm not mistaken, they let her play on a high school team in which her dad is the coach.
There you go.
Now, see, here's the deal. Let them be children first. I'll never forget this jazz musician, Patrice Rushen, who the parents told them they never told her how high her IQ was because they wanted her to go through high school normally, then go out there and explore what she needed to do. Sometimes you take children and you thrust them in areas too quickly, and then you wonder why. Well, wait a minute, she's only 22 years old and she's burned out.
Why is she in rehab?
It's let them be children.
Ask Justin Bieber what happens.
Yeah,
Corn's a believer.
A behoober?
Exactly.
800-956-7266 phone number here on Sports Talk. You want more from your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. To find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. 800-956-7266. Some email and some Twitter stuff coming up as we go to Mike in Columbia here for our next phone call. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the program.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Man, we're doing great. Good to have you with us.
All right. Thank you. Hey, I love your show. Hey, listen, guys, I know it's been a lot of talk in South Carolina about the Redskin change logo thing.
Yeah.
Before, I didn't think it was no big deal, but I saw a Native American standing in front of a stadium here. It was probably maybe about a year or so ago, 2 years ago. And this guy had some signs of 4 different ethnicities: black, white, Hispanic, and Jewish, and they were all kind of offensive. And he wasn't being offensive, trying to be ugly. He was just trying to make a point. And it really dawned on me then, just seeing those 4 things. I just think, me personally, I think the Redskin name should be changed. Because if it really offends people like that, I just think, hey, man, it's just money. They can call themselves the Warriors or something else like that. But just my 2 cents, I think it should be changed. And I don't think it should be a whole big uproar about it. I mean, because if it's that insensitive, the signs that I saw the fella made, for example, I don't even want to say the names that were on the signs, but if you take the word Redskin, for example, and if there would be an uproar in this country, I'm African American, there would be an uproar in this country if they were called the Washington Blackface. There would be an uproar in this country if they were called the Washington Paleface. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's kind of time to change that, maybe. And I love the NFL, love football. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I think
there
the
you go.
ought to change.
There you go. I knew we'd get to the root of this at some point.
But, there are a lot of Redskins fans. The actual team tried to start a Twitter hashtag where they're like, talk about why you're proud to be a Redskin.
Yeah.
And there were Redskin fans going, you guys, this is embarrassing. Why are you trying to stick it in people's faces? And, I get there's 2 sides to it, but I do think, and I can easily see how it's offensive to people, that term, despite what I know people believe. I mean, there's newspaper articles that it wasn't used as a term of endearment for a lot of those people. A lot of Indians do not view that as a term of endearment when they were referred to as Redskins in the newspapers when they were talking about battles and massacres and
But there have been groups of Native Americans who have said they're not bothered by it. I think you can probably counter those who are opposed to it with those who say they're not bothered by it. Here's my
there could
point.
be a black person that says I'm not bothered by the N-word. That doesn't make it right.
Well,
I mean,
but the N-word carries a very negative and derogative denotation.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Washington Redskins, for example, their song, their most famous song, their fight song, is "Hail to the Redskins." In other words, they're praising the Redskins. They're praising the warrior. They're praising the. I look at it as a positive thing, not as a negative thing. And the way that they use it, I think they use it in a positive way to glorify.
Does there have to be intent for racism? That's the point. I mean, because they're not saying no one names their team the Wimps, but but it doesn't make it less offensive to somebody. And it's not just one group of people. There's a lot of people that are offended by
let's just say the Redskins ownership caves on this. Then what are the Atlanta Braves to do? And the tomahawk chop and all of that. What are they going to do? Why will they stop? Why will the group that gets
Braves is not a derogatory term.
But if they get the Redskins to change,
Indians isn't a derogatory term.
They're going to go after. They're going to. But
we don't know that.
How about
that argument is always used. One domino falling, going for the other.
Slippery slope argument.
Here's the deal, guys. There's a difference between racism and insensitivity, and both can be nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're insensitive, that's almost worse than being racist. At least I know where you're coming from. Insensitivity means you don't even care. I think various tribes have said, well, like I think it's North Dakota, well, the Sioux is fine. We have elected to have it. The Seminole Nation has said, we have given Florida State the nod to use Seminole. But Redskins has a derogatory term to a lot of people, and why upset people? I mean, even the minor leagues changed what some people would say a derogatory term when they had the Atlanta Crackers.
All right, got to hit a break. Be right back. Thanks for the call.
change for Croatia. And another Brazilian Croatian will enter the fold. In this case, Eduardo. Second on the all-time list of goal scorers for the Croatian national team. Cerna. Behind him, Rakitic. Given away by Samir. The Brazilian wearing the Croatian colours. Envia did well. Abubakar. Scooped it. Just not happening for Volker Finke's team.
And that's always a risk, Derek. There's another look at Mandzukic's goal. That's always a risk at times when you're winning a game so comfortably. You just get a little bit lackadaisical. You pass the ball around. Loose pass from Samir, allowing Cameroon to get out on the break.
Olic. Mandzukic in the centre. Couldn't quite make the perfect connection.
But not for the first time with Cameroon out on the break and the inability to direct those shots on goal. Make Pleticosa, make him make a save, make him put him under some pressure.
Maybe so Olic, as always, full of running, and he got things going with that 11th minute strike. 24 years of age. Can still do it at this level. So Olic.
All right, back on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. Oh, my gosh. We have to interrupt the regular flow of the program. I haven't done this in a long time. Let's see if I can pull it up through me here. As we welcome into Sports Talk the de facto mayor of the city of Charleston, the bad boy by the bay, the ninja of the night, the pontiff of the port city, the queen of the cowboy crybabies, and the man who swims out to Fort Sumter about once a week, collects the unexploded cannonballs, shines them up, paints them up, returns them to the Citadel for future use against invaders from the north. It's not Jim Rome. He's busy making millions. It's J. Rome.
Yeah, the overrated Jim Rome.
Jay, are you talking to us on a speakerphone? Are you on a speakerphone? Do I hear?
No.
Are you talking to us from the bathroom?
Yeah.
All right. You sound hollow. You sound hollow to me.
The overrated and overpaid Jim Rome.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I'd rather sound hollow than shallow.
That's true. You're never shallow.
Yeah. Daniel Snyder, get a clue, okay? You're an idiot. Daniel Snyder, Jerome to Daniel Snyder, get a clue, you're an idiot. Change the name. It never should have been this. It would have never gotten to this. Hey, get rid of the name. It's offensive. And I'm not even Native American. It's offensive to me. And I don't sing their stupid song with a stupid grown man that dress up like with the pig noses.
Yeah, they should get rid of it.
So you just want to get rid of all Washington football tradition of 80-something years, however long it's been. You just want to get rid of it all.
Yeah.
Didn't like the Bullets nickname either. Excuse me for being insensitive.
Anything else you want to get rid of, Jerome, while we're talking about it? Any sports talk show host you'd like to get rid of?
Can I get back to you on
that? Are you still banned from all Charleston Airways?
Darkness. Hey, as always, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Where you been? We haven't heard from you in so long. Where you been?
You know, I don't think you love me anymore. So don't be asking me where you've been.
Well, there's been a couple of times that we were getting long-winded and we wanted to go to you because I was told you were holding, and and you evaporated. You didn't show the patience. You didn't pay the price. I mean, this is not a birthright. Being on this program and being on the air, it's not a given. You have to earn it.
Hey, I'm a very grounded person, so I would never think it was a birthright to ever call and move to the front of the line when I call this show.
That's
okay?
correct. That's correct.
All right. By the way, you know what? I can't wait till football season starts, though, because I sure want to see how the Packers going to do this year.
Going all the way, baby. Nothing wrong with Packers.
As well as the Yankees?
Yankees are hanging in there. We're all right. We're going to get some pitching back here pretty soon. We're going to be just fine. And wait till the Celtics get through this draft and reshape our team. My teams are coming back. Where are your teams, Jerome? Where are the Cowboys, Jerome? Not going anywhere. We appreciate the call.
Kovacic. Lovely ball. Eduardo take a game. Had to be another one for Mandzukic. It's 4.
And Croatia's putting it on Cameroon.
A Mandzukic double. And Cameroon can apparently do nothing about this. Croatia cutting loose.
Like all good strikers, Derek, you always follow up with shots. Kovacic, originally good work on the sideline, finding Eduardo. Etange can only parry. And when he looks up to see who's in front of him, he's hoping it's a defender, but instead, it's Mandzukic. And the easiest of finishes for the Croatian hitman.
Well, it's all going swimmingly now. Mario Mandzukic to sit out of the opening game through suspension. An annoying experience for the big striker. 4 goals by Croatia, most ever by the national team at the FIFA World Cup finals. It's got things going. Perisic for the second. 2 goals in a 12-minute spell from Mandzukic. And maybe they're not finished there. Substitution for Cameroon. And off is going Eric Choupo-Moting, replaced by Edgar Sally. The winger, youngster, 21 years of age. He's the best player at the African Youth Championship 3 years ago. Scored his first goal for Cameroon recently against Moldova. Just inside the final quarter of an hour. 4-0 to Croatia. Perisic. Silky skill. Suakoto is the defender in question with Mandzukic. It was so noble the shot. No let up from Croatia at all. Modric challenged in an ungainly fashion by Mukanjo.
So much time and space for Croatia when they get into the attack.
Medical advancements or something? No, no way.
Get away from Cameroon if they're not careful.
Kovacic.
What about
The ball. Let's see if Cameroon can spring into attack. This was by Sally. Don't forget coverage of the 2014 FIFA World Cup continues tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and watchespn.com, as well as the Watch ESPN app.
Stand by, stand by.
All right, got the recruiting report coming up for you in a few minutes. Lots of good stuff there, so stay tuned for that. Braves have already lost today. They get swept at home by the Phillies, and now they head up the coast to take on the Nationals in their next series. 800-956-7266 is our number. If you're looking for a fun, instant game to play from the South Carolina Education Lottery, then check out Find the Nines. It's the one to try. With this dollar ticket, you could win up to $999, all from the South Carolina Education Lottery. 800-956-7266. Back to the phones we go. It's Phil. Got to be a smart guy. Phil in Somerville. How are you, sir? Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hope that proves out. Let's hope so. Couple things. I'm just up to here with this. I'm offended by this, and I'm offended by that crap. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The world is sitting on edge, waiting for something to come along that they can run and be offended of. And that's really my major gripe about this whole thing. You know, if you go back and trace what a Redskin could mean, yeah, it could be the scouts and all. But you know, somebody had to dig real hard to find that, because I surely wasn't taught that when I was in school. And it's been 80 years, the Washington Redskins. There is something to be said for tradition. If it's me, and I know it's been said before, but if it really comes down to it, I'd change the logo to a potato and make them Redskin potatoes, and keep the Washington Redskins and just have the potatoes as the logo.
People wouldn't have a problem with that. And I hear what you're saying too about people being offended, and I think, like Pro said, that some people go overboard. But that doesn't mean there aren't legitimate reasons to be offended by things. I don't think we've reached a point in time where you can't be offended by anything.
But you just can't appease everybody. And he's right. The caller's right. Phil's right. I mean, someone can always find something to be offended about and make a stink over and get enough people to follow them to create a disturbance. And with as sensitive as corporations are today, leagues, corporations, whatever the case may be, they're going to listen, and you know, if they feel like it's going to hurt them somewhere in the bottom line, they're going to take action against it, whether it makes any sense or not. This is a tough one. Daniel Snyder has held firm to this point. The pressure against him on this continues to grow, apparently, and I just don't know how much longer he can withstand it before having to make a change. And I like that, the potatoes. I like that, the Redskin potatoes.
Yeah, and it couldn't happen to a better guy than Daniel Snyder. I don't feel sorry for him at all.
Made Steve Spurrier.
Well, I mean, he's handled it completely wrong. That's the other part of it too. He's been
he's sort of like, you can't push me around on this thing.
Well, he's a jerk. I mean, that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. That Dan Snyder's a jerk, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to at least understand why some people are offended. To sit there and say, oh, people are offended about, there's always somebody offended about something. That doesn't mean that some people aren't legitimately upset about something. Just if I'm offended that you're wearing a blue shirt, it's different than if I'm offended over somebody insulting my mother. That there's legitimate reasons to be offended, and I think if you feel like somebody is being derogatory towards you and your heritage, that is a legitimate reason to be offended.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that, in my opinion, are legitimately offended. Now, it's not the Redskins if they want to keep it and they think it's an okay business model and they want to stick to their tradition, it's a free country. I don't have a problem. I mean, the First Amendment, you can be a racist if it does. You have that right, just like I have a right to say I'm not going to buy any Redskins gear and go to their games, and I'm not going to support it. Fine. I mean,
they have no trouble selling out 90,000 tickets.
Well, I think probably when you look,
pretty empty the last game they were getting clobbered.
Because they stink. But when they're good, they sell that thing out 90,000 plus.
When you look at it, I think if you look at St. John's, the Red Storm, the Golden Eagles of Marquette, Syracuse Orange, seems those changes were seamless. Nobody had any problem with them.
Well, I mean, you don't know unless you remember the fan base. What if you're a Gamecock fan, and let's just say that
slippery slope, here we come.
Oh, no. See, get your mind out of the gutter. I was going to say, the PETA faction.
No, that's what I mean.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were
I mean, and again, that's why I don't think all controversies are created equal.
But let's just say over a period of time, let's just say, they got it started and it kept on growing.
Start saying they're offended by
well, whatever, PETA,
I just think
the imagery of a bird.
You're talking about people
eating.
You're talking about people.
Let's just hypothetically
people being offended as opposed to
hypothetically speaking
Gamecocks or Bulldogs.
How would the Gamecock fans feel about that sort of conspiracy rising against their tradition and their name and forcing a change and having to? I'm going back to what Pro was saying. It was a seamless transition for Marquette and St. John. I don't know. Ask a longtime St. John's fan. Ask a longtime Newberry fan how they feel about having to give up their name after 50, 60, 70 years of tradition.
On the outside, it looks seamless because what? If it was such an uproar against it, fans would come to the games with the old stuff on.
Well, I think they probably still do at some point. But then again, if you do, you're being viewed as being insensitive now towards, in this case, Native Americans. If you wear your old Newberry Indians jersey, you go to a game there, they look at you, you have no sensitivity, you have no feeling.
I don't know. I mean, that kind of fell under the blanket umbrella. I don't know the Indians.
Well, they had no choice at Newberry.
Right. Well, they had no choice. But again, Indian is not the same as Redskin. Seminole is not the same as Redskin.
The NCAA make Newberry change their moniker
because they didn't have lawyers like Florida State did. Well, and again, I didn't agree with the NCAA threatening teams like that. I didn't. I didn't agree with how that went down. I thought they should have investigated and said, hey, wait a minute now.
Doesn't Catawba still go by the Indians?
Yeah.
Catawba's still the Indians, aren't
maybe they had I think they got the tribe to back them up. I mean, Gilbert's still the Indians, and that doesn't offend me. And I grew up in a different era. Like Redskin, like the collar. It's like I didn't know. I talked to my kids. Oh, that's Redskin. You explain it to them. And when somebody explains it to me, I go, yeah, I can see how that's kind of racist. I mean, I can see how that would be offensive. Again, we talk about intent. It never was intended to be racist. And when I say Washington Redskins, I'm not intending
I tell people, and I've told you, and you've discussed it, we've argued about this, but I look it up in the dictionary, the word redskin, and the origination of the word had to deal with...
What dictionary did you look that up in, by the way?
Whatever's on the internet.
The internet dictionary.
Isn't that where everybody
goes? There's nothing wrong there because I've never seen it in a dictionary.
Don't attack where I get my information.
Yeah.
Anyway, it said that the origination of the word,
the Drudge Report dictionary,
deals with the painting of the face of the Indians back then. They paint their face red as they were going into battle.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, red skin. That's where it came from. Now,
that's
over
disputed.
time. Now, let me finish. No, it's not.
That is. Yes, it is.
No. You're not letting me finish.
Okay.
The story, the definition, the story went on to say over time it became a derogatory meaning. It began to be used in a derogatory manner. But the origination of it, according to this dictionary that I read,
which you can't remember what it was.
I can do a quick Google search and tell you what it is. Was that it was not intended that way. So.
But it is that, I mean,
I don't think the Redskins meant any harm
history of
or
this
any foul by using the name Redskins. I think they're glorifying Indian Nation as warriors and braves and fighting to the death, everything you want in a football team.
We're savages. I mean, that's...
You got something to state, man?
You asked for the dictionary, so I went to Merriam-Webster, and it's American Indian, semicolon, usually offensive. So there's.
But that's not the original. I'm talking about the
original dictionary written by
as it's written now in Merriam-Webster. I think anybody else would use as a source.
Well, I mean, all right. 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. We're going to hit a break. We've got recruiting coming up on the other side. We'll hit some email. We got some Twitter stuff for you coming up as well, so don't go away. Recruiting in a moment. I'll tell you again about what's happening with incoming and outgoing members of USC's football recruiting class, and we've got a couple of other key players to updates, including a corner who'll be visiting South Carolina this week and likes them a good bit. That's coming up in just a moment. USC basketball coach Frank Martin and two of his
Lift over Etange, just a little bit too far. Good work from Mukanjo, working hard to put Radetich under a little bit of pressure, but he knows he should have made it 5 for Croatia.
It continues. Suakoto, and the Cameroon threatening through Webo. And again, the acrobatic effort from the substitute Pierre Webo.
Too bad there's 2 minutes left and you're down 4.
Kanjo, Serna, goal kick. Well, it hasn't been Cameroon's night. Sadly, the substitute on the ground. Not required. He's got his card out. Kanjo just walks away. Eduardo, who's been cautioned.
Usually offensive, disparaging, insulting, and taboo.
See Sally come in a little bit strong. Eduardo taking a grievance. Late challenge. Here's a replay. Webo's header off the crossbar. When it's not your day, it's not your day. And now infighting as well.
Mukanjo and Asuakoto, and Webo very smartly intervening. And that's what you don't need, disunity. The game just about finished.
And the game's been finished for a long time, Derek. It's just, I just hate to see a team just go into disarray like Cameroon has.
It's all from the electronic.
All right, stand by, guys.
All right, to the recruiting report for tonight's defensive end Johnston Thomas of Atlanta and Trinity Valley Junior College in Texas, according to Tony Morrell, the Big Spur, and Thomas, a 2014 USC signee, not going to have the grades to make it to USC this fall. Originally signed with the Gamecocks in 2012, did not qualify for freshman eligibility. His high school coach told us this afternoon he plans to talk with him tonight to learn more about that situation, and we'll pass on what we learned from him. The Gamecocks continue to wait on the qualifying status of defensive lineman Dexter Weidman of Saluda. His coach told us earlier this week they're waiting on a final test score to come back. That's either SAT or ACT, and it should be about 3 weeks before they know the result. The Gamecocks did get good news. Linebacker fullback Joe Blue from Dillon. His coach Jackie Hayes telling us that Blue recently got the news he's fully qualified And that news came too late for him to enroll for the first session of summer school, so he'll be enrolling July 2nd. Florida Atlantic commit running back Jordan Scarlett of Fort Lauderdale is going to try to visit USC within the next couple of weeks. He also plans to take an official visit to USC in the fall. He indicated the Gamecocks have a good chance getting a future commitment from him. He likes the idea of playing in the SEC, and they're telling him that he's got a chance to come in and play early like his good friend Sky Moore did last year. Ohio State's the only other school Scarlett plans to visit in the future. Several years ago, USC went down to Mobile, picked up a cornerback named Captain Munnerlyn. Went on to become one of the best in USC recent history at that position. They are back in Mobile recruiting Jalen Thompson, 6 feet 170. He, too, a corner. Plans to visit USC Thursday, Friday with two of his friends and future prospects from Mobile, 2016 quarterback Tyrone Johnson and his brother, 2017 linebacker Thomas Johnson. Now, Thompson says he's got a lot of interest in USC. The SEC, he said, is a big deal for him because he would love to play in the SEC. He's got over 35 offers, but he said right now the focus is USC, Kentucky, Georgia, Miami. And he said USC's been pushing hard for him. Wants to make a decision around the end of July. 39 tackles, 7 picks, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and he returned 4 punts for touchdowns. They like him also as a punt returner. There you go with recruiting. Available online, sportstalksc.com. Also, hashtag ST Recruiting. If you want to check out some of the ST Recruiting bullets that we publish or any other notes that we put on Twitter, ST Recruiting, hashtag ST Recruiting for that. Listener of ours down in Charleston sent me an email and said that the definition of redskin that I provided was from the Oxford dictionaries, which he's correct. I looked it up here. I think those are reputable dictionaries, as dictionaries go. And the definition of redskin under the headline of usage, as a noun, the definition is an American Indian. And as usage, this says the following. Redskin is first recorded in the late 17th century and was applied to the Algonquian peoples generally, but specifically to the Delaware, who lived in what is now southern New York State and New York City, New Jersey, and eastern Pennsylvania. Redskin referred not to the natural skin color of the Delaware, but to their use of vermilion face paint and body paint. As I said, that's the origination of the word. In time, however, through a process that in linguistics is called pejoration, by which a natural term acquires an unfavorable connotation or denotation, redskin lost its neutral, accurate, descriptive sense and became a term of disparagement. Red man is the first recorded in the early 17th century and was originally neutral in tone. I thought that was a tobacco as well, chewing tobacco, red man. Had a little red man back in the day. Red Indian is first recorded in the early 19th century and was used by the British far more than by Americans to distinguish the Indians of the subcontinent from the Indians of the Americas. All three terms are dated or offensive. American Indian and Native American are now the standard umbrella terms. So there you go. That's the history of it all.
So that makes you think if the Redskins played back in the 17th century, then it'd be okay. But we're now in the 21st century.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's what's facing a lot of people and a lot of things today, and that is the histories, the traditions that have been fine for a long, long time are now viewed as not fine, but should you give way to the current feelings compared to the past?
Yes.
I think it's going to be everything
to the past.
Yes.
against Croatia, because Rakitic and Modric in the middle, when they are allowed the time and space to dictate the game, Perisic and now Mandzukic up front, I don't know. I like Croatia.
They got to just keep playing. Mexico's just got to keep playing the way they are. If they try to adjust and try to think about it and let's be smart, and that will be the end.
And Ochoa should just stand on his head.
Well, yeah, they can't afford to have another game like that. It was great, but if they let those opportunities to this Croatia team,
What
problems.
a match, though. It is Monday in Recife. Croatia still alive in the group, and they will play Mexico in that match. It's on Monday.
The 2014 FIFA World Cup is brought to you by Adidas. All in or nothing.
He's absolutely unstoppable. Look at him go. Such brilliant maneuvering. What a pass. Wow. He breaks to the right. We are seeing world-class.
Too bad Chiswick has the acumen of a Division II coach.
Running them. Break free and go.
Bobby, please.
The bigger, faster, more powerful all-new Golf GTI. Ready, set, golf.
Fate threw everything at the Bacardi family.
Because he's a Trojan.
Fire of 1880 couldn't stop us. Nor did Prohibition in the 1920s. Or exile from our home country in the 60s. The Bacardi family didn't just survive. We thrived. Because true passion...
Stand by.
All right, more calls coming up here on Sports Talk in just a moment. You want more out of your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online, and to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. Go back to your phone calls, and it's Ray in Aiken. Hi, Ray, and welcome to Sports Talk. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you for taking my call.
Certainly.
And I appreciate you going over the definition of redskin. While I was on hold, I looked up another term that has derogatory in its origin, and that would be Yankee. So the New York Yankees are a team that is using a derogatory slang word.
What's derogatory about Yankee? I'm asking that because I do not know.
You know, that's what Americans call themselves when they go to other countries.
Yes, I know, and that goes to what you were talking about, where words can change over
but
time.
who's Yankee derogatory to? Who's that offensive to?
Look up the dictionary definition. Just type in definition of Yankee
on
Google, and it was
I don't have. I mean,
Google it.
Derogatory
term to describe people that live in the United States. Just generally all of us. We're all Yankees.
Yeah, we refer to ourselves as Yankees too. I'm having a hard time making the comparison between Redskin and Yankee.
Well, I mean, what he is saying is that you can find something that's derogatory for practically everything, and here it is, Yankee. Often a person who lives in or is from the U.S. Origin, mid-18th century origin, recorded in the late 17th century as a nickname, perhaps from a Dutch word. But I don't see anything here. I'm looking at the Oxford, a Union soldier in the Civil War. I don't see anything from a derogatory standpoint for Yankee.
Well, I'm just calling because when I Googled it, that was the first thing that came up. Derogatory term for people that live in the United States. Also, if Redskins is so derogatory, why are there Indian reservation high schools that have Redskins as their mascots? It is a point of pride.
Is that true?
I mean, that sounds like one of those facts that I'm going to look up when I get off the air and realize you just pulled that straight out of your rear end.
Is that accurate, Ray?
Yes, sir. There is a high school in Red Mesa, Arizona. They are Navajo. And I heard another sports talk place.
And they call themselves the Redskins.
The Redskins.
Red
in
Mesa,
Oregon.
Arizona High School Redskins.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's derogatory, why
Arizona,
are they
known
using
as a beacon of tolerance.
They are the Red Mesa Redskins. That's what they are.
But that doesn't mean, I mean, that could be the same as the Washington Redskins. I mean,
interesting. All right. Hey, thank you very much, and we appreciate your phone call and pointing that out to us.
So
we will be back.
You've got a racist team in the Yankees.
I didn't realize that. I love my
Apparently.
Yankees. Just don't attack my Packers.
Well, that's very offensive.
Have a great night. See you tomorrow.